Welcome back, folks. This is the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we had Shahil Amin, who is from Hylite LED Lighting, and we discussed outdoor lighting for recreational facilities like baseball fields, football fields, other outdoor applications, Greg.
Outdoor and indoor. We talked about arena lighting,
Yeah.
stadiums, the whole range.
We talked about a bunch of different angles to how to sell it, because the issue is it's a difficult play on the energy savings side because the lights aren't on that much. And they're also on at times when in some jurisdictions the electricity costs less at night. So it's a tough payback. So we talked about ways that we could get this stuff out there and deployed in the field. So this is a good one if you're into that avenue at all and you're wondering, hey, what's left out there in the LED market? Hey, a lot of these places are still running 400 watt, 1000 watt, 1500 watt halides, Greg.
Absolutely. Good application to look at LED.
For sure. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by AeonLEDlighting.com. That's AEON LED lighting.com. Greg, what do they sell?
Well, I had to look it up a couple times. It looks like Aeon, but I think it's pronounced Eon, but it's spelled like that. So
You
either way,
corrected me
we're
on
going
my
to go
own
with
show,
Aeon,
buddy.
Eon. I'm not sure if that's a correction or if it's a guess, educated guess. So we're going to talk about their product today. In our discussion, you'll hear a little bit more about it in the recording today, but overall, it looks like an excellent product. It's brand new. It took them 3 years to put this together. So that alone should tell you that they really put the time and effort into making this a good application for sports and field lighting. Is the Aeon or the Eon LED light. It comes in flood, spot, all the different beam angles you need. It has proprietary glare-free illumination, which is important in these applications. It can be made for HD and 4K broadcasting and a variety of lumen packages and options. So something to look at. If you're looking at sports lighting and you want to go LED, definitely check out Eon LED lighting.
And it's also in the connected lighting universe. So think about that, folks. Great application there for LED lighting. We talked about it on the show. Just a little heads up. Also, we're also brought to you by the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Go to naild.org, baby. That's nailed.org. Join us, man. We're going to be hanging out in Reno, Nevada, which is close to Las Vegas. Actually, pretty far from Vegas, but roll in hot there with us. Greg and I are going to be hanging out. I can't wait to see all my old friends from Nailed. That's right. Go to naild.org. But right now, we're talking about outdoor, indoor, arena, and field lighting. Greg, I don't even know what the heck. What do we call this? What is it called?
Sports lighting. How about that?
There's got to be a name for it or something. But anyway, it's on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. Welcome to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, Shahil.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Say hi to Greg Eric.
Hey, Greg. How you doing, man?
Good, Shahil. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, man, I don't know if you guys are jacked, but I'm looking forward to the Nailed convention in Reno, man.
Yeah, it should be a good time. Should be a good time for sure. It's always a nice time to get together with all the old friends from Nailed and meet some of the new ones.
So we were talking about it just before the show about the difficulty with illuminating and retrofitting sports complexes. And Greg and I were discussing it and just on our own, what we've done in that. And you wanted to come on and talk to us a little bit about it from a conceptual perspective. Where are you guys at with that, and what are you doing with it?
Yeah, so as far as us in particular, speaking to us, Hylite, we've just released our Aeon Sports Lighter. After 3 years of development, we saw a pretty good need in the market for a high quality sports lighter, especially as folks are transitioning towards LED, and you see some of these high profile events, in professional sports and collegiate sports moving in that direction. That's kind of where we spent the last 3 years developing something that we think is going to be good for the market there.
Why 3 years? Has any other LED lighting that you've done taken 3 years to develop?
No, but in something like this, we wanted to make sure all of our T's were crossed, all of our I's were dotted. I mean, the product itself took, about 2.5 years, and then you have in between that, you have all the necessary certifications and kind of hoops you have to jump through to make sure you're ready for the market as far as testing is concerned.
So when we're talking about sports facilities, let's make sure we're all on the same page here. You've got indoor arena types where you have a roof over it. You have outdoor stadiums where you don't have a roof. Then you have fields where it's not really a stadium, but it's a baseball field or a football field or soccer field. Is it kind of how you guys break it down, or is it all similar rolled together? How do you look at that?
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, any kind of sporting facility, whether it's from parks and recs to your local school ball fields, all the way up to NFL stadiums or professional sporting arenas.
And have you guys looked at the studies on how many professional stadiums have LED currently?
I
Like what
couldn't give you an
percentage?
exact. Yeah, I couldn't give you an exact number. I know more and more are making the switch. For example, we just saw, that Mercedes-Benz Super Bowl or Mercedes-Benz Stadium with the Super Bowl that was lit by LED, and I know there's a lot of other avenues now looking into it. Not necessarily from a cost-saving standpoint. I mean, that's always there with LED, but really the real um, thing that people want to hit on is the maintenance savings, right? Because of the labor involved and how high they're up and just the burn times, et cetera, on that.
So, Shahil, tell me this: how did you get into lighting?
So we actually we're a family-owned business. My father started the company in 2010, and I graduated in 2011. I jumped feet first right after that.
And what's your background?
So I have a business degree, marketing and management, and I kind of jumped right in right when LED was really kind of taking off, and took my time to really understand the market, or at least understand the parameters of what we were dealing with, and kind of ridden the wave with everyone else.
And how did you? What's your role at Hylite?
Business development. So I focus on expanding our market share throughout the country.
Are you on the product development side at all?
A little bit. So primarily Harry deals with that, and then we kind of segue between each other by me corresponding with my customers in the field and our reps and so forth, and kind of get general feedback, and I kind of liaison that to him, and then we develop around that.
Who's Harry?
Harry's my father, the president and CEO
Okay,
of
he's the
Hylite.
president. Okay. And when you were talking about sports lighting, Greg, and this is a conversation, Shahil, it's not really an interview or view. So when we're talking
Yeah,
about
sure.
sports lighting, Greg, what's the number one challenge that you see in the field? Ha ha ha. Field.
Well, yeah, no, I think it's. I haven't done a lot of projects to be honest with you, just because hours of use, at least in a lot of the facilities I'm at, aren't very high. So there's not a lot of concern over it. And light output is the biggest concern. Is making sure the light it provides enough light. So the one project I'll share that I have done, I'm on in addition to selling light bulbs, I coach football, and I'm on the youth football board for our association that we put in pole lights on a football field. Only time I ever dealt with it. I ended up passing it through at our cost, but I ran all the numbers. This was 3 years ago, and we had to put in new poles and fixtures. And I looked at LED versus HID, and at that point, the LED equivalent was about 3 times the price of an HID. So it didn't make sense. I mean, even from a maintenance standpoint, it would have taken 40, 50 years to even pay off. So are you saying now that we're at the point that LED is in the cost range of where a brand new HID fixture would be? Shale?
I'm not saying it's in the general cost range. I mean, it's still going to be a little bit more expensive. I think when you consider in the long lives that you're now getting out of LED, and then you consider the burn time, you're going to customers and you're able to put to them that you can change this fixture, and with how long you're running it, you're not going to touch it for X amount of years, which is a lot more than the 12 hours a day kind of burn time. So we've done calcs where folks are running it 5 hours a day for the summer months, a little bit going into the fall, and then that comes out to about 25-30 years of never having to touch a fixture.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know that for sure. I mean,
Sure.
that's, I wouldn't, as somebody that stands in front of the client, and would be looking at him, ready to shake his hand on a deal. I don't know if I would say that to him, but the only thing that would tempt me to say that would be the very little usage of like Greg had mentioned, the very low hours of operation of stadium lighting would maybe give us the off time we need to make a 10-year promise or something like that on the performance side. But I don't see from a perspective of going out visiting clients. Let's say, the Air Canada Center, or it's not called it, Scotiabank Place, or, wherever it is in Minneapolis, you're going to have a hard time putting an energy payback on the table, Greg.
And I think that's to Shahil's point, is that it's more of a maintenance story, I think, is what I'm hearing. But how about light output? Is it at the point that it's better than what they're getting now with HID? I know it can be
Well,
if
I
you
think
increase the lumens enough, but lumen, equivalent wise, is LED providing better light in sports facilities?
Well, I think that, in our business, right, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I can tell you, yes, someone else will look at an HID and say, you know what, we like that better. As far as equivalencies for lumen outputs, I think to a certain degree we are there, and you can get to, either sometimes 2-for-1 replacements, even your standard 1-for-1. It just depends on what exactly you're looking to do for that facility.
I think there's an issue too, like from a perspective of, so I think there's a difference between, Greg, you're on the local football committee of the football field and the needs required for that. Hey, is there enough light? Yeah, Jim, I like it, right? It's good.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
a facility that offers paid seating for live events. I think those are two completely different scenarios here. Do you guys, I think from my perspective, I would look for support from, somebody to tell me about the optics, the controls, how these things deploy in the field. Do you guys offer that in your, and again, this is not a advertorial for Hylite, but is that something that you offer with the fixture? Because I would look for that. Would you not, Greg? Would you not look for support from the manufacturer on field deployment for some areas where people are offering paid seating and events and that?
Yeah, I haven't got involved in the paid, but even the one I did, and maybe that's where we should kind of break it down, is what do you need to do? You need to look at the facility that they have, and then what's the first question is how much light they need. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. So
Okay.
first, let's
So how
just
much
take
light?
an example, right? So, depending on the parameters of what we're looking at, what is the application? Is it our local Parks and Rec ball field versus are we looking at NCAA or professional sports, right? And then you have the foot candle requirements. So, for example, you'll have different, IES puts them out there where you can have 30-foot candles in the infield or 20 required on the outfield, and whatever it may be, depending on, again, from all the way down from like middle school all the way to professional, you have different foot candle requirements. And then you do have that flexibility of, okay, this is what you're looking to do. How can we cater the amount of luminaires and the wattages needed and the beam types and the beam angles, etc., to get you the foot candle requirement that you need?
You know what? You know what's interesting too is that I know a lot of the existing deployed base of stadium lighting and arena, like large arena lighting, they use mechanical shields to reduce and change the light output. During a hockey game or during a baseball game. So if there's a pregame celebration where whatever's happening, there's literally a shield that slides over that HID to block the light from coming out of the fixture that then reopens. And different ones will open if it's a basketball game, if it's a hockey game. There's different configurations and protocols to that system. When looking at that, Greg, I'm very intimidated by that. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, no, I think it's more entertainment lighting. What we deal with on a day-to-day basis is lighting to see a task that needs to be performed for work.
Yeah.
This is like a play, it's recreational. So it's a whole different way to think, and you want to make sure when you're doing it right. So you need to know the application, as you mentioned, and then you have to do a design. I mean, you have to have a layout.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting. It's one of those applications. There's another one out there. It's like, when Keystone came out with their Sign Hero product, I felt like that really brought the storefront signs and the boulevard signs into play. This is going to bring into play for me just immediately off the top, like this kind of stuff in the LED market where it's fixture based. immediately going to bring into play your local parks and rec, like you said, Shahil. That's immediately on the table with this sort of stuff. When you get into that higher end facility, NCAA or anything like that, I'm even worried about the local. I would even be worried about the local arena hockey team that charges $5 to come and watch the Uxbridge Bruins play the the Port Perry Cougars or whatever it is. It's I look at that and you see those shields up there and how they do it. So there's certainly levels to this type of thing, but I think it's largely the existing deployed base in the I don't know if it's stage. What are we talking about? Is it stage and studio lighting here, Craig?
Yeah, it seems to me like it's more in that range than it is, commercial or industrial lighting.
But I think the existing base is ripe for something to come along and really pluck it. I'm a little bit intimidated by it, I know that. But, Shahil, what have you guys seen in terms of receptivity to this product by distributors and contractors in the field? Have you sold a lot of units?
So we just did a full launch the second week of January. So we've seen a lot of great reception. So we have two different styles on the flood and the sports. So for sports lighting, it's one of those, as you mentioned, that we have to do a complete design around the parameters of what we're looking at. And that in our business, as you know, takes time. You can have some quotes out there, but when the decision is going to be made after whoever signs off on it may be months down the road or even a year or two down the road. But nonetheless, that's not to say that we've generated from all different ranges. Again, from universities who are looking at it to make the switch, people who want to copy some of the sports teams who've already made the switch, all the way to municipalities for Parks and Rec. Because you have to remember that some of these folks, some of these entities and municipalities, they are going a certain amount of failures. They'll wait till a certain amount of failures before they go back and justify the cost of replacing the HIDs or the ballasts or whatever the case may be across a facility. Now, you get into a larger municipality and they have a tremendous amount of fields throughout the place. It's starting to now make sense where they can have those longevity of LED and make that switch.
What kind of paybacks are you seeing if you look at, I know you factor in maintenance, but if you were going to look at purely energy savings and a standard city baseball field, I know, again, Minnesota, we can't play baseball now, but maybe in South Carolina, you're playing baseball still. I know that there is going to be that, but is there a standard payback number you're seeing, or is it not really going by payback as much?
I mean, to be honest with you, there's not a standard payback because, again, it's so variable upon the application that you're using. Because some of these fields, they're being used for multi-purpose, right? They'll have a baseball field, or they'll have a field in general where they'll have baseball on one side and soccer on the other, and it's all lit from all the same poles on one recreational facility. But other than that, if you're looking at a very particular thing, it's all variable, right? Coming down to the on times and burn hours, etc.
How's glare factored into this thing?
That's a good question. So, traditionally, there was, a good bit of glare on the HID, and we've seen in LED, there's a lot of sports lighters that are coming out, and that's a very huge factor that they have to consider because with the glare, when you're with LED, to get into these high lumen packages, it really comes into the design of how are you going to get the horsepower up, right? What are you going to use to really get a high lumen package out there? And when you do that, how much do you lose on the controllability aspect of an LED, right? So as you're kind of going up on high lumen packages, you're driving up the wattage or the drivers and stuff. It really becomes almost like a shotgun effect. You're just trying to get as much light out of as you can out of the fixture, and then where do you lose that controllability in that aspect? So there's stuff that we've done in particular for glare, but it is a good point to consider because you don't want to have those same kind of issues where people say you're lighting up the ball field at night, but the neighbors are complaining that the lights are still on or they're getting the sky glow or whatever the case may be. So it is definitely a factor to consider.
So without disclosing all of your trade secrets, how do you control the glare? Is it just a lens basically around each chip? Is it the lens over the whole fixture? What is it?
Yeah, so it comes down exactly into the optics, and each lens that we design is proprietarily designed, and it comes down to what wattage we're looking at and what model and what we're replacing, how we determine what optic we're going to use.
Okay. And are you seeing that a lot of this, and I mean, is it all new construction? Anytime they're building a new stadium or a new field, going LED right off the bat?
Some are. Again, it kind of depends on what kind of what area of the market you're in. A lot of folks, at
Mhm.
least here in the South, we've been seeing traditional HID fixtures and stuff going back up, even in new construction. But we do have customers in other more, I guess, progressive areas of the country where they're looking at LED right off the bat.
Yeah, I don't like the word progressive. Um, it's such a tainted word. It's like discrimination. It's like, oh, okay, triggered. Oh, you can't say these things anymore. It means something else other than, going ahead with LED. It's funny because I think the new construction and even the renovation of these major name brand places are going to be left to architects and lighting designers, Greg. I don't think it's going to be a pack of distributors going wild at it out there, bro.
Not on new construction. I guess what we're trying to figure out is there a retrofit play here? And let's take a field that's out there right now that has 4 poles. I use football as my example, and it has 10 heads on it, each pole, and each head is 400 watt metal halide. Is there a simple way to say, hey, one for one, replace those with a 200 watt, and you're going to get similar light? Is it as simple as that, or is there still the beams and all that you need to factor in and optics?
I mean, there is going to be the beams and the optics that you're going to have to consider. It's not necessarily here's a floodlight, replace it with an LED floodlight, just to you'll reduce this wattage, but you'll get light out of it. You just want to make sure that the application that you're looking at is going to be able to perform the way you want it to for whatever sport that they're playing. So there is a design aspect to it. I do think there is a play for distributors in there. I don't know how many distributors are out there going on and calling on some of these entities as far as ball fields are concerned, but there is a huge retrofit piece to this. It's not all new construction. There's solutions out there that you can go one for one, and again, it's going to come down to the application, right? We have some local ball fields where they're not necessarily so strung up on the optics and the beam angles and the foot candle
Yeah,
levels. They
sure.
just want light,
Yeah, for sure.
and
Mhm.
they just want to play, they want to turn it on, they want it to work, and you can help them there.
And you know what? I think that's, honestly, that's the vast majority of what's out there. I mean, you get into these, I don't know if you ever, I avoid them like the plague where like, the Rogers Center is going to upgrade their lighting. We're taking proposals. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't even want to
Yeah.
get involved in that stuff. I'd much rather go after, 20 municipal parks or, private fields or
Mhm.
whatever, Rugby Canada's field or something like that rather than get after it. And I think Shahil's onto something. I think there is a sense that, I know how to light a playing field with using fixtures and keep it in on a low end for them so that they're not spending $75,000 of for one
Mhm.
field or whatever it is. But I think this is a good application, and we just had the folks from Signify on a couple shows ago talking about. I think connected lighting is an interesting play in this place. I think this is actually, Greg, a time where an app could be used effectively, or a digitally controlled from a device or a computer within the building or an iPad or something that you could say, okay, all the coaches download this app and you can turn the lights on in the field before your practice or whatever it is. I think this is actually one of those applications where that connected lighting really makes sense. Do you agree with that, Greg? Like, to me, it's almost imperative that you have that in the package if you're going to somebody.
I 100% agree, because I'll go back to my example of the youth football board. You know how we have to turn the lights on? 2 people have a key to get into the room and go hit the switch. And one of
Exactly.
those 2 people have to be at the field whenever a
Yes.
game's on.
It's like a
Yes.
So let's get an
Yeah.
app
Well,
control
I'll
it
tell you this.
for
There's an
sure.
easier way to do that. You can get like one of those locks that has a keypad on it with a password.
We
That
did that.
okay, that's
We did
pretty
that.
easy. But
Thanks.
but that being said, I think this is actually a no-brainer play. Did you guys have a chip in that thing that's Wi-Fi connected or Bluetooth or whatever the thing is?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, controllability is going to be huge facet for some of these type of applications. I mean, people want what we call, dynamic scenes, right? So if we're going to a sports field and they have different settings, for example, a football game, using Greg's example, they have a national anthem setting. You hit a button and all the lights turn off except for the spotlight on the singer. And then you have a full game setting where all the lights turn on. And then you have a cleaning crew setting that dims them 30% or a certain section of the field so the cleaning crew
See,
can come
that's the
in after the
payback
game,
there.
etc.
That's the payback there, right there. Because all of a sudden you increase the diversity of the local thing to hold a different kind of event on that field, a more dynamic event or a better event,
Because
with the national
that's the
anthem being
goal.
sung.
Yeah, it is to entertain people at these facilities.
Yes, for
So
sure.
connected lighting is about entertainment. We just are on to something here.
Boom. So, but I mean, like
That's
if you're looking at it, like if you're going to a municipal thing and you're saying, look, we'll configure it for you. What scenes do you want? Okay, so the national anthem has to be sung from the pitcher's mound, and that's scene 1 on the app. Download it. It's all pre-configured. You just download the app. You enter, you download it. You enter your passcode. It's on your phone, and then 10 people have it that are at the event, and you're like, okay, I need you to push scene 1. Okay, then as soon as that's done, and the game's about to start, go scene 2, and then there's the scene 3, and then it automatically shuts off at some other time later in the night if everybody forgets to turn it off. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that. I think that. It's one of those things where, you drive by at night, you drive by a field and all the lights are on. And yeah, it may not be costing them that much energy-wise, but it certainly looks bad to waste money on municipalities. Like municipalities look bad when their lights are left on in playing fields unnecessarily, or when one playing field is active and the other isn't, and clearly it's 6 o'clock at night and nothing else is going to happen in that field, and those lights are on because all the lights need to be on in order for one field to be on, or something silly like that. I think this
Exactly.
is a real play for connected lighting, a practical, real life usage where lighting distributors can get involved and contractors can get involved and really add value to the customer. Whether it's with Hylite's products, or I'm sure there's going to be competitors out there. This podcast is about the industry, so I mean it's an interesting that this sort of thing is coming out, and I think this is really this may be the first real hard application for which makes sense, where people are going to commit to connected lighting and commit to that Android or iPhone app or whatever it is that allows for that, Greg.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, and it makes a lot of sense to me to have that capability in this application for sure. So one question I had, Shahil, is on the broadcasting. You actually put on yours that it's designed for 4K and HD broadcasting. Are there HID lights that right now have an issue with 4K and HD broadcasting, or LEDs that have an issue, or is that an issue? I guess let's start there.
No, I mean, so you do have stuff with HID that's out there in HD TV. Obviously, we watch it all the time. I mean, we watch games on 4K. If you have a 4K device, you can watch it. So not necessarily an issue there with HID, as well as in LEDs. It's gonna vary upon honestly what you're looking at as far as lumen packages and CRI, which is going to be a huge determinant on what you're going to be doing as far as the broadcasting is concerned.
You know what's interesting too? There's a huge. So I'm in the podcasting business, Shahil. So I have this show. We have the Light That Online video show, and then I also do my own life show. There you go, listeners. Get a grip on life.com. That's right. If you want to hear my opinions on what's progressive and what isn't, there's a good one for you. You can check it out. But yeah, so. But I also, people come in my studio and we do different things for them, all sorts of things. And one of the things that's come up is the live streaming of sporting events, like lower level sporting events that, it's not worth it for the local TV company to come out, or ESPN 27, or, to come and put the game on TV. But there are people that, can't come to the game, can't come to Johnny's hockey game, and the grandparents would love to watch it on YouTube and live stream, or and someone can be there with an iPad. And I think the lighting, if you're able to up the quality of light, so you can tell people, yeah, not only can you now film stream 4K, whatever the hell it is, Greg, what's the technical lingo jingo for it? 4K
For
the light, the HD. You can stream, the lighting is good enough to stream HD quality thing, but we also offer the internet connectivity to be able to do that. So then these places can now the local championship football game between the White Bear Lake Panthers and the
Bears.
whatever it is, White Bear Lake Bears.
Bears, yeah.
Is it a white bear on it?
Yeah, it is, of course.
Oh, that's so awesome. So the White Bear Lake Bears versus who for the local championship? Who would they play, Greg?
It depends on the sport, but let's just say the Stillwater Ponies. How about that?
Stillwater Ponies versus the White Bear Lake Bears. And Greggy can't make the game because he's recording a podcast with Mike at Reno in Chicago or wherever we are, and he wants to watch the game on his phone in live stream, and the lighting is adequate to do that along with the other infrastructure needed. That's a play, brother. That is a package right there, man. So, in that note, Shahil, thanks for coming on the show, and thank you for sponsoring as well, man.
Yeah. I appreciate it, guys. Nice talking to you.
And of course, let's say thanks to all the
you.
listeners. We're super grateful for you guys. If without you guys, none of this would have happened. And giving us your time to listen to the show, you know what you can do. Don't forget that if you're watching on YouTube, you can press to whatever that button is on YouTube, and you can send it right to your beautiful 4K TV screen, and you can see Greg and I's picture and Shahil right up on your TV in your living room. You can get a little popcorn, grab yourself a Heineken, ice cold, and watch the show. Go, guys, thanks, and gals, thanks. There's lots of gals that listen too, brother. So thanks for listening, all you people out there. We really appreciate it. And Greg and I are super grateful, and so is Shahil. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks. See you in Reno.
I'll see you there.
EonLEDlighting.com. That's AEONLEDLIGHTING.com, Greg.
Yeah, no, you'll see we talked about their product a little bit today, but you'll see on the website that's probably shown on the YouTube their options in the flood and the sports lighting fixture. He mentioned, Shahil did today, that it took them 3 years to develop this product. So they really put the time and effort into getting it right. Because in this application, you need to get it right. A lot of people are there and getting entertained, and they need to see what they're getting entertained by. For years, it's been HID lighting. Now it's starting to look like LED lighting is a solution, is a viable solution, is something you should consider if you're lighting those applications. And it looks to me like Eon Lighting is the one to look at, to go with.
What? I think the dynamic scenes is a selling point. Having the very easy to use to create different scenes. So it's like on your iPad or on your phone or whatever, download this app, and then you can have a different scene for the national anthem singing. You can have a different scene for the fireworks, a different scene for this sort of stuff. And it really gives the municipalities and the smaller level fields the ability to, act like they're the Super Bowl for their kids and things. And I bet you there's a lot of different, football associations, hockey associations, and baseball associations that would like to do that, Greg. They may have the budget to do that.
Oh, they'd love to. A lot of them are nonprofit, and so they can't make money, and a lot of them do make money. So what do you do with it? You got to spend it.
Yeah, spend it on a big party for the championship show. So, hey, we thank Shahil for coming on the show and telling us about it. Go to AonLEDlighting.com. We're going to figure out how to pronounce this at the convention, Shahil. So don't worry. We'll get it right at some point. AEONLEDlighting.com, baby. Check them out. And, of course, this episode and every episode is in association with the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's NAILD.org. We're going to be in Reno. We got different webinars. We got educational programs. Check us out. Join us, NAILD.org. But for right now, that is another episode of the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast.
Written on the rectory wall, there's a sign there for all. You are lost, Lord is there to find you.